Hello everyone and welcome to Life Begins at 20. My name is Mark and today we have the first episode of a brand new series called Inside the Cube. In this series we're going to be talking about archetypes within a cube, what they are, how to support them, and the pros and cons of having them in your cubes. So if you're brand new to Cube, do check out my Introduction to Cube video, which I'll put a link for in the description below and a card on the screen right now, so that you'll have a better understanding of what we're talking about as we develop further into this series. Just before we get started, I'd like to thank the Mana Base for sponsoring this video. For those of you who don't know they are a group of fellow Magic the Gathering content creators bringing you everything from Pauper to Limited and Cube. Definitely worth checking out at themanabase.com because I'm sure you'll enjoy what you see. Back to this episode of Inside the Cube, and what we're going to be doing is talking about what an archetype is, explaining terminology used by cube builders so that you'll be able to understand the further episodes. Don't worry, the concepts are straightforward and it may well help to improve building your cubes. So without any further ado, let's get stuck in. Cube is a format where players want to play limited with the best cards in Magic's 25-year history, no matter the power level of their cube. As many players found with this wide range of cards, strong synergy-based decks came together. Cube builders then took the step to intentionally build them with these synergies in mind, which caused the drafting stage to not only pay attention to the power level of the card itself, but also any synergies that this card may have with any others that they've already drafted, and also the potential cards they could open later on. Just before we get on to talking about these synergies and archetypes, I want to just separate these with styles of deck. By that I mean when someone describes a deck being aggro or control, these are not archetypes, but more deck types, which share a similar fundamental but can widely differ in played style. The four deck types for me are aggro, midrange, control, and combo. Aggro decks use creatures and spells costing between 1 and 3 mana in order to reduce the opponent's life total to 0 as quickly as possible. Mid-range decks utilise creatures and planeswalkers costing between 3 and 6 mana, typically played early through the use of mana acceleration to grind players down in the mid to late game. Control decks utilise cheap blockers, spot removal, counter spells, mass removal, and card draw. This type of deck wants to win in the late game using one of their very few victory conditions after answering all of the opponent's threats. Combo decks ignore most, if not all, interaction with the opponent in order to combine cards that will pretty much win the game on the spot fairly early on. Archetypes and these deck types sit alongside one another. Each deck created belongs to a certain type, but could contain multiple archetypes. While some archetypes always play in the same deck type, Reanimator, for example, is always a combo deck type. Some archetypes can be played in a variety of deck types. Blink, for example, can be in aggro, midrange, or control decks. Please note, an archetype is not a theme. Themes are widespread over the entirety of the cube, such as a creatureless or multicoloured cube, where many, if not all, the cards are related to the central theme. Archetypes are different in the sense that the number of cards that support each are a lot less, and adding in 5 to 10 cards can introduce a new one into the cube, whereas a full cube overhaul will be needed to introduce a new theme. There are some very clear benefits to having an archetype approach to building your cube. Not only is the drafting process a lot more interesting due to having to think about more than just the most powerful card in the pack or finding 2 open colours and picking all of them, archetype based decks are really fun to play as well when successfully drafted. Plus, these archetypes create a distinguishable difference between one cube and another, providing a unique gameplay style which is down to the cube's creator. As much as there is a huge amount of positives for archetype supporting cubes, the issue here can be taking it too far. This would produce 2 things. Firstly, cards added to the cube which is down to their synergy with certain cards, which by themselves aren't great, could prove detrimental in the draft pool that doesn't regularly contain the other cards needed to maximise the effect of it, causing these cards not to be picked. The other issue is that the archetypes are too heavily supported, causing the decks to be the same each time the cube is played, which takes away from the fun of drafting. At this point, you may as well be playing a constructed format. The solution to this is pretty straightforward. This is to take cards that are good enough to be in the cube by themselves, but are even better when supported in a certain archetype. These are known in the cube building world as anchor cards. Typical examples of these are Siege Gang Commander for the Tokens archetype, Restoration Angel for the Blink archetype, and Liliana of the Veil for Reanimator. Utilising these anchor cards is possible to support archetypes without including too many specific cards that aren't as useful outside of that specific one. The other solution, which goes hand in hand with using anchor cards, is utilising cards that have synergies between multiple archetypes, allowing you to include elements of multiple archetypes in the same deck. This is known as cross-pollination. A typical example of this would be cards cross-pollinating with Artifacts and Reanimator, as both decks use big artifact creatures and ways to get them into play early. Cross-pollinating cards can earn their place in cubes even if their power level isn't on par with that of the rest of the cards in the cube. Please note, something to watch out for is scattering supporting cards for archetypes over too many colours. By spreading them out, it may be possible to have cards that have amazing synergy between them over 5 colours, but it's highly unlikely you'll ever be able to play all of these at once. It's better to choose 2 colours for each archetype and only support them in those. There are always exceptions to the rule, as Tokens and the Blink archetype is deep enough where you could utilise all 5 colours and work well. So there we have the introduction to archetypes in Cube. Hopefully now you'll be able to understand the difference between an archetype and a deck type, plus you'll understand what an anchor card is, support cards for archetypes, and what cross-pollination is as well, so that we can take this information into the further episodes when we dive into individual archetypes themselves, so you'll have a better understanding of what the cards are, why they're so good for what they are, plus and how the different archetypes will play. In the next episode we're going to be talking about one of my favourite cube archetypes, in that of the Blink archetype. Let me know in the comments section below whether you found this video useful and which archetypes in Cube you're excited about hearing. I'd like to thank again the Manabase for sponsoring this video. Definitely do check them out at themanabase.com, as there's some very talented content creators from all manner of formats that definitely are worth checking out. If you enjoyed the video, do hit that thumbs up button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for new videos every Tuesday and Friday. Don't forget to hit that notification button so you'll know exactly when these videos are uploaded. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.